Welcome to Unhinged and Bumbled Up, where you can
join serial dater Phil.
That's me. And dating detoxer Liz.
That's me. Welcome to the world of online dating.
What can you expect in the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast?
Dating do's, don'ts and disasters.
What we and our guests would gladly chuck in the 2020 dating bin to be gone forever.
What real people really think about those tricky dating dilemmas.
Awesome dating trivia. You'll never know when it'll come in handy for that pub quiz.
Top tips and tricks from our awesome guest experts who luckily know a little more about dating than we do.
So if you've ever had a dating disaster,
ignore the red flags.
If your dating life is unsuccessful and you need just a little bit of TLC,
then you're in the right place. Do we know what we're talking about? No! Our dating lives are both utter shite. So join us as we talk all things dating. The good, the bad, and the sorry, there's just no spark.
Hello, lovely listeners. This is just a quick note to tell you that during this episode, we will be discussing some sensitive topics. They include mental health, suicide, and briefly abortion. If you think this is something that might affect you or you don't want to listen, here is your due warning, and there are some resources and links at the end of the show. Welcome to the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast. I'm Liz, he's Phil, and today we're going to be talking about mental health. So before we get all into that, Phil, how are you doing?
I'm good. Had an eventful week, cancelled dates and everything like that.
Okay, we need to hear about this. What happened to the dates?
Just one date that got cancelled twice. 3 times, kind of. Nobody wants to date me.
Oh, the right person will come along, but it is. I distinctly remember the frustration of gearing yourself up for a date and then it doesn't materialise and it just feels like a whole load of wasted effort. I'm sorry to hear that.
Move on, isn't it? I've learned quite quickly. Move on.
Thank you. Next.
Now, how's your week been?
My week has been superb, actually, because a very important thing happened this week. For those of you who don't know, I have had braces on my teeth for nearly 2.5 years, which has felt very, very long. And on Tuesday, the braces came off. I've got real teeth. I've got real big grown-up teeth.
Yay!
They look massive because I'm used to seeing them with braces on. So I feel like I've just got this mouth full of huge teeth. But if you want to check them, if you want to check them out, head on over to my Instagram and marvel in my new pearly whites. But yeah, that was a really nice part of the week. And then also something is that I realised this week I'm just hitting the 3-month mark of my date-free year. Fancy that?
Yeah, I got the message this morning. Guess what date it is? And I was like, it's a week until your birthday, Liz. And she was like, yes, that. And I was like,
happy anniversary me. 3 months. I'm a quarter of the way through, and dear God, it's only going to get harder.
So we've recorded this episode extremely different compared to how we normally do it. I've recorded one part solo, and I've explained on the Instagram post why that is. And then we've got a special guest that came in to record a part, but unfortunately someone had a migraine, didn't they?
That was me.
Wasn't feeling good, so we've decided to split into 3 parts because my editing skills are not that good.
100%. And also I think there's something important in you doing the part of the episode that you've recorded solo by yourself, because I know that was quite an important experience for you to share that. And I also think there's something interesting in the fact that you and the special guest who both identify as male, talking together like man to man without my listening ears. So I think maybe it's worked out well, but I'm really excited to record this section with you, Phil, and talk a little bit more about the relationship between mental health and dating.
A little bit about me.
All right, it's not that boring. So this segment is a little bit about me, where you learn about me. Yeah, that's basically it.
My story, a bit about me and my background and my dealings with mental health and how I suffered. So this first started probably 13 years ago now. I won't go into too much detail about all of it, but I'll just give you the basics. So with a relationship that I had, that ended. Now there was an abortion involved in that, led me to moving out, and the relationship ending. There was other reasons to it, but yeah, then there was the potential that this person cheated on me. So more questions went into my head. So I ended up moving into my own place after moving back to my mum's, and so that's pretty much where it all starts. And it was going okay. The spiral started with that. So when I found out about the fact of cheating when I drove past her house, because I worked all over Nottingham, and drove past and saw a car that I recognised from somebody who works at her workplace. Because so yeah, I carried on as normal. That started to affect me, and then anyway, my friend couldn't keep her dog anymore, and I specifically said to the landlord when I moved in that, I'll be looking at getting pets one day. Is that okay? Yeah, fine, no worries, no problems. So I said to her, I said, I'll take her. I'll take Kia. I'll take her, and she can come stay with me. So that was going great. I had a companion, had someone there all the time, and it really, really helped. It was amazing. Until the day when I was at work, I got a phone call saying, "Have you got a dog?" And I was like, yeah. And they were like, "You're not allowed a dog." I was like, "No, this was agreed at the start that I was allowed an animal, and this was all agreed." And anyway, they turned around and says, "You need to get rid of the dog by the end of the day." I said, "Well, can't she at least stay in the garage?" I wouldn't have kept her in the garage, but yeah. And she was like, "No, you need to get rid of her by the end of the day. The landlord's allergic to dogs." So, unless you buy the house, because basically he was aware that there was a potential for me to buy the house. So the letting agent was pushing that and says, "Oh, if you buy the house, you can keep the dog." I was in no position to buy the house at that time. So my mum, she took Kia, and they ended up finding Kia an amazing home. So I started to feel the depression setting in. And yeah, it was tough. It was lonely. So I approached work about it, and they could see a change in me. I didn't mention it. I was just like, "Listen, I need a bit of time off." And anyway, had that week off where literally I did nothing. I literally, felt like doing nothing. I felt like talking to no one or anything like that. Anyway, I got back to work, and I was out working, and I get a phone call. "Phil, can you come back to the office?" Came back to the office. They sat me down and says, "We're going to have to make you redundant." So, and they were like, "Oh yeah, my manager at the time will come back to your house and we'll come take your car," because I had a company car. So here was me in a matter of a few weeks, literally lost everything. everything spiraled. And this is how I say it. I say it spirals. So it just happens where one thing starts to spiral off, and then everything bad starts happening to you. So I didn't have any transportation. I was now without a job. I got paid 2 weeks' wages because we got paid weekly. And to me, it was a start. Start really was it. I didn't feel like doing anything. I literally spent most of my days in bed, unable to move. I felt that I had no one around. I mean, I didn't reach out to anybody because, to me, I didn't want to burden anyone. I didn't want anyone to I didn't want anyone to me to burden anyone. I thought, what's wrong with me? You know, I thought, I don't like it, the fact that I'm here. I'm all alone. There's no one around, but nobody's reaching out to me. Nobody's asking how I am. And it kept growing and growing. And I missed appointments with the job centre. Literally, yeah, I had no money to do anything. I tried really hard, but I couldn't. It felt like there was this massive concrete block in my head, and I just couldn't do anything, you know. Anyway, this got worse. A few weeks came, didn't speak to anyone, didn't see anyone, and yeah, it got to the point where I decided that I was going to take my own life. And I thought of many different ways, but most of the ways involved people, and it would have put a massive effect on other people's lives, which I know sounds stupid, but I didn't want to affect anybody else. So I basically got a rope, tied it to the banisters, got a chair, and I wrote letters to everybody, apologising more than anything, apologising that I was a failure, apologising that I let them down, apologising that I couldn't be anything in life, and just saying sorry, and how they'll be better off without me. And anyway, got to the point, and I was about to, and then the letting agent called, and I didn't pick up. I didn't answer it because I was like, no. And they left a voicemail. So I listened to the voicemail. It says, listen, your landlord's got an important letter there and is on his way around. It doesn't matter whether you're in or not. I didn't want anyone to stop me doing it. I didn't want anyone to be able to come in, find me partway through, because I feel that would have just felt awful. So I got down. I quickly hid the rope, moved the chair. He came round, and like that 5 minutes that he was basically there, and when I kind of sat back and thought, Phil, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why? So fortunately, we had the crisis team. So I rang them, and they came over and sat down, and they said, you need to call your mum. So I phoned my mum. She came over, and they says, listen, instead, we feel it's better if you go live with your mum. So that's what I did. I went to live with my mum. Struggled because I was still in a contract. My grandparents managed to get me out of that and say, listen, he hasn't got the money to pay you. Like with benefits, housing benefits, they took months for it to come through. So yeah, I went back home, and for me, antidepressants weren't the answer. So I did therapy, I did meditation, I looked at ways, the triggers, what triggered everything, and trying to work that out. Now, me and my mum were having a conversation the other day, actually. And I said to her, about, I was talking about doing this episode, and she was like, that's an amazing idea, and I said to her, well, I've been through it, haven't I? And she's like, yeah, you have. And I said, do you remember what you said to me then? And she's like, no, I really don't remember. I said, you told me to snap out of it. You told me just be happy. You told me this and that. And she was so apologetic. She couldn't apologize more. And the thing is, I didn't blame her. I didn't have any issues. I didn't have any problems. I said, you don't need to apologize. And she said, why? And I said, because education, people weren't educated back then. Mental health, the awareness behind it has come such a long way since 13 years ago. Like, we've got so much support and help out there. And the thing is, I wish back then we had as much support and help as we do now. And I said to her, don't apologize, you weren't educated. And the problem is, back then there was a stigma around mental health, and it was, you were the black sheep, you were this, you were that. Fortunately, it's got a lot better now, a lot more understanding behind it, a lot more awareness, a lot more charities doing their bit. And do you know what? All I wanted was somebody to talk to, or somebody just to listen. And if you're listening to this and somebody reaches out to you, listen. Yeah. And do you know what? Looking back now at then, I am so fortunate that that phone call happened, that my landlord came round at that time. I'm so fortunate something got in the way to stop me doing that, because now I wouldn't have had my little boy. I wouldn't have had my little boy right now, and I wouldn't have that unconditional love from him. I wouldn't have been able to see him born. I wouldn't be able to see his first day at school. He wouldn't even exist, if I would have done that. And I wouldn't be making this podcast right now. I wouldn't be talking to you guys. I wouldn't be hopefully giving you stuff to take away. I wouldn't be helping you through some hard situations, and that really means a lot to me that I didn't do that, because you know what, life seemed shit at the time. It felt like being in a cardboard, a big box with a two-way mirror on it. Yeah. I was inside that box. I could see everybody walk out on their normal life, day in, day out, and nobody could see me. And it was awful. It was horrible. And you know what? I just wish that I had somebody, just one person to listen, just one person that I could cry on their shoulder, and one person that just would have gone, Phil, I'm here. And the thing is, what I'm saying to everyone now is, if you've got a friend and you haven't heard from him, just reach out. And I'm not talking text message. I'm not talking WhatsApp. I'm not talking DM. I'm not talking anything like that. What I'm talking about is reaching out to them, giving them a phone call, seeing how they are, and it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. And you can get so much more from a phone call than you can just a message. Like the other week, I I voice note quite a lot because I find it a lot easier. And a girl that I was speaking to, a friend, she voice noted me, and she was like, I could tell instantly in her voice that something was up. She wasn't feeling right. She had a bad day. So I asked her, yeah. And this is the problem. We're less social than ever. We don't speak to anybody anymore. And yeah, and that's the problem. We're growing further and further apart. And while we have all these amazing charities out here and all these amazing help and all this amazing awareness, suicide's still going up. Suicide is still high. Suicide is still one of the biggest killers in 44 to 49 40. It's crazy that people are taking their lives. And all it takes is somebody to listen, someone to be there, someone not to make judgment, someone not to turn around and go, just snap out of it. Because that doesn't help. That doesn't help one little bit. And I can tell you from someone that's received that firsthand. Do you know what? I've suffered massively with mental health. Like I said, I've suffered many times after that. Not as bad because I learned how to control it. I learned what my triggers were. I learned when I could see it coming. I learned how to pacify it, if that is it. And you know what? I had a spot out in the country, in the middle of nowhere, just for me, to go and sit and listen. And it doesn't matter where that spot is, as long as that spot's for you. And the message at the moment coming from this month's mental awareness, health awareness, is connect to nature, because nature has this amazing healing quality that you wouldn't believe. It does. There's just something about it, just something about stillness, the quietness. So if you are suffering, take yourself away from the hustle and bustle, the issues, the problems of everyday life, because we are moving so fast. There is so much pressure on us as people that we just need time to stop. Time to move, go somewhere quiet, time to just be, and that's the thing. So yeah, that's my part of it. And you know what? I don't ever think it's a lot of people suffer from mental health. There is high numbers, and I'm just talking about depression here, but there's so much more in the mental health that people suffer with, whether it's BPD, whether it's anxiety, whether it's PTSD, eating disorders, or anything like that. There is so much that people suffer with. And you know what? People, we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate ourselves. We've got the internet. So stop scrolling on Facebook, liking memes, and go have a look, read more about mental health. And you know what? We're not asking people to be experts. I'm not an expert. I've just experienced it. So that's what I'm talking about right now. So yeah, if you've got any questions, if you want to talk to me or reach out about mental health, like I say, I am not an expert, but I've been there, and my inbox is always open to listen, to hear, and just be. Yeah. So that's this part done, and we'll move on to something else.
Back to the questions.
Can you answer this?
Now we're back to the real reason why you're all here, asking our guests the questions and getting the answers.
So here's the thing that I wanted to ask about dating and mental health. And when do you speak to someone about that? When do you like bring this up in conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, this feels like a bit of a similar thing to, you know, in episode 3 when we were talking about children and, you know, the baggage episode. Like, when do you bring it up? When is the right time to bring it up? Because I don't want to like lead with it, but at the same time, it feels like maybe not I'm like one of the most important things to me is authenticity and transparency. So it would feel really weird for me to get quite far along the line before I would mention it. Also, I think there are some mental health conditions where it might be necessary to tell somebody about it, because the opportunity will present that it comes up. So by that, I mean, for example, I remember speaking to somebody on a first date about my mental health challenges because I was quite late. And the reason I was quite late is because at the time my OCD type tendencies were really bad, and it was taking me a very long time to get out of the house because I was needing to do a lot of checking and rechecking of the door, and then get in the car and then get out of the car and recheck the door and then pull the door handle a certain number of times and blah blah. So it was actually quite late for the date, and he was clearly not that happy about it, but actually I thought, I've got nothing to lose here. He's already pissed off because I'm late, so I was quite open about it, and he was all right, to be fair. But I wouldn't necessarily always want to be so early with it, but at the same time I didn't want to make a bullshit excuse when there was proper reason.
It's not something you can really put on your dating profile, isn't it? Suffers with depression, it's not something like that. I feel when you're comfortable with the person, and you feel like you can speak to them about it, possibly a good time. And do you know what? If they take it in a bad way, then they're not right for you. And this is what we always say, isn't it?
But I also think there's probably it's probably different for different types of mental health conditions, because I think there are some things which are maybe a bit more common or like in the public domain. So things like anxiety, depression, OCD to an extent, although it's very misunderstood. Which are maybe something which a lot of people know somebody who has experienced that, and it's a bit more kind of familiar. I think I might feel different about it if I had something like borderline personality disorder or schizophrenia, or more like a more serious diagnosed mental health condition. I think that would probably be maybe a different kettle of fish in terms of speaking to people about it and how comfortable I would feel.
Definitely. It's like I say, it's because eventually you're going to have to speak about it if that becomes a relationship or something serious. But it's when you feel comfortable, really, isn't it? I don't think there's a set time limit on it or anything like that. It's a case of when you feel the time's right.
Yeah, and I think often you can kind of get a feel for how somebody is while you're dating, and a sense of how empathetic or open-minded they would be about some things. And if I got a feel that somebody was maybe like a bit judgmental or a bit sort of black and white in their thinking, then maybe I would choose not to share, and I would probably choose not to continue dating them, to be fair. But I think an important distinction to make is, I don't know how to explain this. So obviously there's been a big push in the last couple of years to do with mental health awareness. But I do think that there is some confusion about mental health conditions, which are a set of scientifically recognized illnesses, and mental wellness, which is about, eating right, sleeping right, avoiding, negative people, blah, 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 taking care of yourself, self-care, take a fucking bubble bath, etc. And what I do think has happened, I think we've made great strides in understanding of mental health, but what I do think has happened is that the mental health conditions have become obscured by this whole mental wellness thing, this whole it's okay not to be okay. And I'm not don't want to take any credit away from that saying, which I 100% subscribe to. But I do think that there has been something where this whole self-care, blah, blah, that is fine, except when you feel like your brain is actually turning on you. Like for people who have a very serious mental health condition, this whole, everyone feels blue sometimes, is actually not that helpful. And I feel like in some ways, normalizing mental health struggles is helpful. And in some ways, it actually kind of invalidates the experiences of people who have quite substantial mental health challenges.
Originally I was going to title this episode Dating with Your Worst Enemy, because I know when I haven't recognized the triggers and my mental health has suffered with my depression, that, do you know what, it makes things a million times harder. Even if I wasn't to the level that I was years and years ago, still, when you're suffering with depression or any other mental health, when it gets bad, it's really bad. Is and this is the other thing. Like, I know one of my friends, they've suffered with depression, and they've had bad days. Oh, someone's setting off fireworks.
That's brilliant. To be fair, it's normally my cat's making noise in the background, so I'm quite pleased it's yours this time.
It's daylight. Why are you setting off fireworks?
I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought maybe you were sitting on like a really rickety chair. I don't know if the listeners will be able to hear that, but it's pretty loud. yeah.
We'll continue anyway. If you hear that, it's not like
it's not Phil's chair.
No, it's the fireworks that are happening in daylight for some reason. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, I've had a friend who's had depression. He's arranged a date with somebody. You know, he wasn't bad with his depression, but he had bad days. He had days that really got to him. And this bad day turned out to be on the day of the date. And he didn't know what to do. And he didn't approach me until afterwards. But it's like, yeah, it comes down to like
hard choice.
What hard choice? Do you tell them, or do you make up an excuse? And if you make up an excuse, it's like red flag, red flag, red flag, and it's like that just affects your mental health even more. If someone's like, no,
the stress of it, yeah.
And
I think there is definitely something about how honest we can be with people. Like with this is not comparison because clearly we are not dating, much to my mum's disappointment, and in fact everybody else I speak to who's convinced that we're going to get married anyway. But with you, I know that you are open and compassionate as a person, and so like the other day when I had a migraine and I need to cancel our recording session, and like what that was a migraine, but obviously there's been another time where I've just messaged you and been like, look, I'm in a really not great state of mind today, like I really don't think today is a day I can record, and you've been super kind and understanding about that. And I think that is really the case, that if you are somebody who does experience mental health challenges, the importance of finding somebody who is going to be understanding and compassionate and helpful and not make you feel like there's something wrong with you or that you're a letdown or anything like that is so important. Because I think if you do have challenges and you're with somebody who is a bit, roll of the eyes kind of a thing, it really grinds down your confidence, because it starts to create a narrative where you feel like there's something wrong with you, like you're broken, like you're not good enough, and where you feel like you have to try and pretend to be okay and go to the party that you really don't want to go to because you're just really not in the mood, or do things that massively trigger your anxiety even though they're not good for you to do, those kind of things. So I think the importance of finding somebody who is understanding can't be overstated. Also, can I just tell you my absolute bugbear? This thing drives me insane. Which, by the way, I've realised I should stop saying that something drives me insane, because it's actually really disrespectful to people with mental health conditions, right? Like, what irony that's come up in this episode. I'm really working on it, by the way, but it just slipped out. So my absolute pet peeve, well, actually, there's two. Can I tell you both of them? Firstly, you already know one of them, because I think I went on a rant on it about my Instagram the other day.
Yes.
One of them is when people say, oh, I'm so OCD, I have to put everything in colour order. Okay, that is not OCD. OCD is a series of obsessive and compulsive thoughts which compel you to do a set of behaviours which you feel that you have no choice in doing, because you have these intrusive thoughts which convince you that if you don't do the thing, whatever it is, click the light switch until it feels like it's clicked right, that your family are going to die, or whatever the fear or the intrusive thought is. Like, it's a very serious and completely debilitating illness. It's not about liking to have things in a row or in alphabetical order, or liking things tidy. Like, that's just being particular about things.
Yeah.
Or liking things neat and tidy. It's really got nothing to do with OCD. And unfortunately what happens is when people make cavalier comments like, oh, I'm so OCD,
like I did in one of our first messages, not realizing.
And I was like,
yeah.
bah, 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 bah. But when people make those kind of throwaway comments, it really trivializes the experience of people who actually suffer quite badly from obsessive compulsive disorder. And I have experienced only a taste of what that is like. Mine is really quite mild in the grand scheme of things. But I find it so disrespectful when people use it as like a cutesy term to mean that they like things tidy. And I realized that I just did it with that something's driving me insane. But I think it's really important to be reflective. And to notice that language.
Because like me saying it, I just said it and didn't know that you suffered with OCD, and anyone can. Mental health a lot of the time is not visible. You don't see it. You don't know what's going on. People can be happy, smiley, and
great job of covering it up, because that's how we do things.
We put a smile on and carry on.
Make out like it's fine. The other thing that really annoys me is related but different. Okay, is when people, to me, inappropriately normalize mental health problems. So I'll give you an example of this. It's very recent. The person that I'm talking about may or may not be listening to this podcast episode. So
hi, person.
Hi. Hiya. It was generally a nice chat, but what happened was this. I said something, because as I said, I'm fairly open. I said something about my obsessive behaviors, that it would often take me a very long time to leave the house or to go to bed. It can take me an hour to go to bed at night because of the relentless checking and rechecking that the oven is off, that the house isn't going to burn down, etc. And I said something about having some obsessive compulsive tendencies that result in a lot of door checking, etc. And they went, "Oh yeah, I do that as well, but I try not to get too worked up about it. I think everyone does." And I was like, No, this is a different thing. Like checking your door once or twice is maybe normal. Thinking, "Oh, did I lock the door?" occasionally is also normal. Taking an hour to leave the house is not normal, and telling me it's normal doesn't make me feel better. It makes me feel like you haven't listened to what I've said here. Like that's not actually helpful, and I think that has happened a little bit in recent times with the kind of, everybody struggles sometimes. Yeah, but not to the same degree. And it's not a competition. It's not like a hierarchy of mental health struggles. But I do think that sometimes people, and I'm sure this person's heart was in the right place. I'm sure they were trying to make me feel better and make me feel included and not different or broken. But it made me feel really invalidated in my experience.
Just when we say normal, we don't mean normal in the sense as...
I mean normal in quotes, by the way.
We mean the majority of the population act in this way, so that's what they call normal. It doesn't mean... Yeah.
Also, we're being kind of ironic because there is no such thing.
No, there isn't such thing as normal. There's nothing. It's just mass population on something. Then they go, "Oh, everybody, it's society."
Nah.
I haven't said that in a while.
You haven't.
Fuck society.
It's been at least 2 episodes. We've missed it.
Yeah, I'm watching Mr. Robot at the moment, and they've got a group called Fuck Society. So it's like my new saying.
I'm going to print it for you on a new T-shirt.
A new T-shirt saying that. Yeah. So yeah, it's just basically going back to Lizz's point about finding someone compassionate. It doesn't have to be a relationship. It can be a friendship. It can be that person. It can be anybody that you feel comfortable talking to, and anybody that is compassionate back to you. So we're not saying that you have to go find a relationship and you have to go have that person to be compassionate towards you. It can be anybody.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Phil. Actually, I think a lot of this applies to friendships as well. Like, when I am deciding if I want to be friends with somebody, not that it's that conscious, but you know what I mean. Like when I'm getting to know somebody, how somebody is with this kind of thing is like is quite an important determiner in whether I would want to be close with them.
Yeah.
I think that relationships are, romantic relationships are just a type of relationships, of which there are many, your friends and colleagues and
it's the ship.
Family and exactly. But I also have been really interested previously in as I have become more open about the challenges that I have had, I have been met with a lot more reciprocal openness from other people. Like, I'm very open about the fact that I've had a ton of therapy. Shout out to my amazing therapist who is absolutely life-changing. His name's Mac, and he's probably my favorite person ever.
Hi, Mac.
Hi, Mac. You're brilliant. Honestly, Mac is life-changing. But I've been very open about the fact that I've had a lot of therapy, which has been incredible. But actually, then when I have been open about that, a lot of other people have said that they have had some counselling or some therapy. And, you know, I think we are moving away from the point at which that feels like a thing you do if there's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I had some hypnotherapy.
It's time for the special secret guest.
Shh! Don't tell anybody. So it's time for a super secret special guest. And normally they know us or they're related to us or something like that, but enjoy.
So everyone, I kind of want to reveal our special guest now, like our secret special guest. Now, you may have heard him, like his name mentioned on many shows, or you may have heard his voice on one of the episodes. And he is one of my two male best friends. And this is Wayne. So say hi, Wayne, to everyone.
Hello, everybody, and I hope you're all well.
So what has brought Wayne onto the show today is basically we're talking a lot about men and the stigma behind not talking about our feelings, not talking about talking about our feelings. You know, when something's really bothering us, like I think it's been ingrained in us, hasn't it, from tradition, like all the sayings that we get, like boys don't cry, just man up, just do this, just do that. And it just seems that like personally, when we talk, it's mostly information passing, isn't it? We kind of like talk to each other and like, oh, what you been up to today? And it's like this, or where you going? And it's never deep and meaningful conversations, like deep feelings or anything like that, is it?
Correct. Yeah, it's literally just hi, how are you? Yeah, what you up to today? Yeah, I'm fine. All right, cool. All right, speak to you later. And that's pretty much it.
It pretty much is. Like me and Wayne speak most days, and that's pretty much how our conversation goes. I mean, we talk about the podcast sometimes. It gives me some criticism about my audio and about, you know, he helped me massively on the first episode because he was like, you sound a bit blocky, mate. Which was great because Wayne is an actor. Well, he's following his dreams of being an actor. He's been in a few things. And he's doing a short film. Is it a short story film? Yeah,
it's a short film. Yes.
Yeah. What's it about?
Oh, right. So the short film is pretty much about a guy who's battling with his mental health, and he's on the outside. He's the guy that everybody looks up to. Everybody wants to be this guy. He's inspiring to everybody else, but he just doesn't see it in himself. And through the story, he has his ups and downs. He has a love interest, and that doesn't go too well. Well, sorry, that love interest goes really well. They go on a date, they get really happy, and then he doesn't hear from her. And it's the fact that he doesn't hear from her and he doesn't know why she's not talking to him. She's not replied to his messages. And that causes more doubts in his mind that he's not good enough to be on this planet and everything like that. But then his mate, who is basically looks up to him, who wants to be him and everything like that. And basically everything goes wrong for the main character, and his mate basically catches him and brings him back down to earth. And you know what? He realizes then that everything is going to be all right. That he has got people that care for him, because in this day and age, men hide, like you say earlier, men hide their feelings. They don't
Yeah,
think they've got somebody to talk to. They don't think they can open up. And this story basically shows
it's
that,
about you can.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can talk to people. People are there to care for you. People are there to listen to you as
yeah.
well.
I mean, I recorded a segment earlier on my own about my mental health and my battles with it and things like that. And what I call it is I call it the spiral. So what
Mm,
happens is when you don't talk to people, one little thing or one big thing can trigger this spiral. And then what tends
right.
to happen is more and more bad things happen until you're at that bottom of that spiral and you can't get out. And, but yeah, I really believe that as men, we need to talk more about our feelings. We need to know it's okay to cry. We need to stop all this macho bullshit saying that, oh yeah, I'll just man the fuck up, or or even when you feel, because I feel sometimes if I tell my friends feelings that are deep down, I
Yeah.
feel that the reaction that I might get may be a bit of banter or a bit of piss taking or something like that. I feel that's the stigma around a lot of this. They don't know the reaction that they're going to get from their friends.
Of course, yeah, and I 100% agree. The thing is when you say man up, oh, you need to be more of a man. You need to I don't know, toughen up. The problem is with the world is men. We are sensitive souls.
Hmm.
We do have our moments where we are down in the dumps, and it's like you said, it's hard to open up just because of the fact that we might feel like somebody might look down on us. Oh,
Yeah,
you are not. How can you be upset? You're not a man. Men don't get upset. Like you said earlier, it's just that stigma just needs to be chucked in the bin
yeah,
completely.
because men do get upset, and the problem, and this is the problem, men get upset, and we as men, we don't know how to, sometimes we don't know how to handle someone telling us about their feelings because we've never had to deal with that. And this is the thing, I think it's about educating ourselves as well. And coming into the 21st century, fuck all that caveman days, fuck all the days where, oh, men go out, men catch food, men don't share feelings, men don't do this, fuck all that. That's back there, and we need to move
Yeah.
more to this century where we talk about our feelings, because let's face it, we all have them. And suicide rate in men is so extreme because we don't talk to people, or we feel like we can't talk to people because it affects our pride.
Yes, but I really strongly feel this. It's the first word. How do guys come across and say, look, I need to sit down. I need to have a conversation with you without feeling that they're going to be judged. Well, how do they come across that? How do they
It's
break
just
that barrier?
it's just getting that message out that, do you know what? Go talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. So, like, if I came to you and said, Wayne, I'm dealing with this shit right now. I'm like, my mind feels like it's going to explode. I've carried it for so long. Yeah. And I know you wouldn't do this, but if you turn around and went, oh, just man up, just do this. Do you know
Mm.
what? Fuck you. Yeah, because you're not the right person to talk to, you know.
The
And
problem is, if I said that, I'm not a friend.
no,
End
and
of
that's the
end of the
thing.
day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, what we've got to learn and what we've got to look at is supporting each other. And
Yes.
we've got to support each other. We've got to help each other. We've got to be there for each other, no matter what, I've been through times in my life, like I mentioned earlier, and do you know what? I don't ever want to be there again. And the thing is, I feel now that I can talk to people about it. And by me putting it on this podcast, I'm showing
Yeah.
that people, you're not alone. You're not alone, because this is the thing. People still think that I'm alone. No one else is going through this. But if you start speaking to other people, you'll find out that they've had family members, they've had friends, they may have even gone through it themselves.
Yeah.
So they've had that experience. They could potentially help you just by listening, because that's all it takes is someone to listen.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
to sometimes just the reassurance that, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And we are here to help. you to
Yeah.
get through it.
Yeah.
And sorry.
No, carry on.
No, I was just saying that, yeah, there's that saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that if people lighten the load, it would make it a lot easier to speak for somebody to understand what you're going through. You can't understand what somebody's going through if you don't know what they're going through.
No, exactly. So it takes two parties. It takes somebody to listen, but it takes someone to speak up. And the thing is, if you do notice a change in your friend or family member or work colleague, and it's a change, it's something slight that they seem a bit more distant or they aren't themselves, just ask them. Just say, are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? Because I'm here.
And if guys are embarrassed to talk to a male friend, talk to a female friend, or
there's charities. There's loads of charities, mate, that basically they will listen, and this is their job. This is what they volunteer for. They volunteer to help, because we shouldn't be in this day and age now where people are taking their own lives, due to feeling alone, because nobody should be alone. And
nobody at all.
No, and the thing is, it's just picking up the phone, just making a phone call, to a friend, to family, or anything. If that person doesn't pick up because they're busy, ring somebody else. Because the last thing you should ever do in your life is end it. Because that's it. I've been there. I've tried that. And the best, like I said earlier, the best thing that ever happened to me was that phone call that I got. And my landlord coming round, because if he wouldn't have, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be. And it's a scary thought when you think about that, and it's how far you come in life. And I feel that we should, as men, we should support each other. And like there's a company that sell hoodies, t-shirts, tops, and they donate part of their profits to charity. They're called Boys Get Sad Too. And literally, it says "boys get sad too," and that message needs to be spread, because we do get sad, we do get upset, we do cry. Like, the fuck, men don't cry. Men do cry. Men, we may not show it, but we do.
It's a natural part of life to get upset, to cry, and talking about it is going to help help with what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it knows it, like I said earlier, if I had someone to listen back then, it would have been a whole different story, because I wouldn't have felt alone. And I think that's what it was. I mean, and going through that, I didn't reach out to anybody because I didn't want to burden anyone. You are never a burden. Yeah, you are never a burden to anybody. If it helps you and stops you from taking your life, you are never ever a burden.
Of course, 100%.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned on Instagram, we broke this story into 2 episodes, so it's a bit easier to listen to. And because there was so much that we wanted to talk about, these are our raw emotions coming out, and it's taken us a lot to talk about these things, and we just want to get it out there for everybody to hear. So I hope you all understand. Here's the socials, and the next episode is just above.
And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, then you can do, whether that's to submit a dating disaster, ask a question, or ask for some advice. We're not that good at helping, but one of our guest experts will certainly be able to. So if you'd like to get in touch, head on over to our socials.
On Facebook and Instagram, it's @unhinged and bumbled up.
On Twitter, it's @bumbledup.
Or by email, it's unhinged.and.bumbledup@gmail.com.
If you liked the episode, then please don't forget to like and share, and click the follow button above.
We also now have a website, www.unhingedandbumbledup.co.uk. See you all next week.